let's begin episode 3 of the ClayCast. Welcome in, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great weekend so far. A small change up in the usual schedule. So the reason why there wasn't a ClayCast last week is because the idea is I'd get these episodes recorded after our D&D sessions on Fridays. But last Friday, we decided to go a little bit longer because one of our party members was leaving to train in the military and whatnot. So I figured we'd play the session for longer so he could have a bit of a better time with us. And then I released another YouTube video anyways around the weekend regardless, so I figured I might as well keep the videos to about 1 week. But today, we're going to be, talking about some cool stuff. We're going to be talking about the 12.8 patch for Tarkov, the good and the bad, if there are any good and bads, and we're going to be moving on to some other real stuff too, including us going back into lockdown over here in the UK. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about mental health, following up from last podcast, and we're going to talk more specifically about the mental health these days amongst men in general. So, without further ado, let's begin there. So first off, I want to give a big thank you and a big shout out to Artesian Builds for officially partnering with me. I will leave appropriate links down below. I will leave the link to my affiliate link down below, along with a discount code for Claymore Plays. You can get up to $100 off your order on on the Artesian Build website. So check it out if you like. And if you have any more questions, throw me in the comments, Discord DMs, Twitter DMs, all the DMs. And also a big thank you to my current 3 patrons for continuing to support me. I really do appreciate it. The help is massive. A big thank you to everyone supporting me over on the Patreon. So let's begin talking about 12.8 and what it brought, if it's doing well, and what it could improve on. So 12.8 brought a bunch of stuff alongside of us. I won't be able to go into everything in detail, not regarding the minor changes and the minor fixes and updates and whatnot. We'll talk about the main elements, the main kind of changes and updates and whatnot, and talk about how they've kind of changed up the game a little bit, and how they've improved the quality of life in terms of the game accessibility and ease of access in general. So one of the biggest changes we got with 12.8, which a lot of people were kind of on the fence about, really. They figured that it might have been too impactful on PvP in general, and especially scav players, and that's the heavy bleeding mechanic. Now, you have your regular bleed, which we all know, and we have all dealt with in Tarkov. So what they've done is now, if you were still a bit confused about what happened, the old icon that used to represent the old bleed, like the light bleed, I guess it's called now, is now being used to represent the heavy bleed, whereas the new icon for the bleed is now representing the light bleed. Just in case you're a bit confused about either or, I know it wasn't quite obvious. It looked like the new icon was the heavy bleed, but ended up not being that. So heavy bleeding. So it's what it is. It's a heavier bleed. It will deal more damage as time goes on than a regular bleed, and if not treated specifically with certain medications, this could be from a Salua, from a Grizzly, from a tourniquet, from a hemostat syringe. It will pretty much kill you. It's essentially the same principle as a light bleed, but it'll just deal more damage quicker. You'll get a visual effect on your screen, so you know when you're heavy bleeding, and also affects your visibility somewhat. And one of the main things about the heavy bleed is that it will leave a blood trail wherever you travel. So let's say, for example, if you were involved in a firefight, you killed one guy, but you had a heavy bleed, so you have to walk off and find somewhere safe to heal. If another player were to come by, he'd be able to track you down by your blood trail, which I think, personally, really cool concept, really cool mechanic. It just adds an element of intensity, almost, to the game in general. There's nothing like being a player and you're wandering by and you see obviously the remains of a fight and then this blood trail leading off somewhere. It's a really cool concept. As a scout player especially, it makes you a little bit more dangerous because you have just that extra bit of information about the area you're in, that someone might still be somewhere hurt and try to wound themselves up and in a very vulnerable state. I personally feel like the heavy bleed mechanic is a fantastic addition to Tarkov. I think that it doesn't proc that much. It's not overbearing. I know that when they did some changes in the previous wipe, the fracture rate was very, very high because they have the kind of like the algorithm they changed regarding it. But no, I don't think heavy bleeds are being spammed necessarily that much at all. If anything, I feel like they could maybe do a little bit more, proc a little bit more. But I think it would largely have to rely on, personally for me, the flash damage on the round and how much damage it deals to it. For example, I feel like a 5.45 round, let's say BS or Rigolnik, wouldn't have as high of a chance to proc a heavy bleed, yet a hollow point round, maybe from, I don't know, 9x19 or 9x18 or etc., has a higher chance to proc a heavy bleed because they have more direct body damage. I feel like they can play with that mechanic a little bit, make those SMGs and shotguns even more dangerous. Yeah, for the heavy bleed mechanic, I think that it's been generally welcomed with glowing reception. We got a few new weapons too. So we got a new Peacekeeper Tier 2 weapon called the RFB. It is a bullpup, 762 by 308, basically, weapon. Shares the same caliber as the SA, the M1A, the RSAS, etc. But it's Tier 2. And for last time I checked, it was about $700 to $800, which honestly, I'd say is a decent price for a Tier 2 weapon being that strong because as much as you can't really do much to mod it, you can put a suppressor, a muzzle brake on it, you can put a foregrip on it, and sights in it. That's pretty much it. There's no installation for a flashlight, a laser sight, etc. So your modding options are limited with the RFB, but if you would look at the stats to start with, you might think it not a great thing to use at the beginning, but in my opinion, the stats are actually pretty deceptive. The weapon performs a lot better than I think the stats give it credit for. Not to mention, too, that it has a lot better ergo than the SA that you would usually be able to buy, as well as the Hunter. So if you wanted to move on to a weapon that arguably has better ergo penalties and better recoil stats, the RFB is a fantastic weapon to swap to from Tier 2. Really, really is great. Personally, for me, I don't think it holds up that well in the end game. It's not one of those weapons you can necessarily carry with you later, but it is a fantastic mid-game to early late game weapon to swap to. And not to mention, it's also I think cheaper than the SA right now, a Tier 3, so pretty good. The RFB, in my opinion, good addition to the game, gives you more opportunities and more choice around the low levels. And hey, if you wanted to just use it anyways at a high level, you absolutely can. Nothing stopping you. Another weapon they added, which honestly wasn't that welcomed warmly. The KS-23. Now, if you didn't know about the shotgun, this is a shotgun with a caliber, at least relating to IRL, with rounds that have the capacity to knock out the engine of a car. So, for those of you who aren't like gun nuts out there, that should paint a pretty clear picture about the performance and damage this thing should really deal. And it certainly deals damage. A lot of the shrapnel rounds deal insane amounts of damage per pellet. I believe one shrapnel round has about 80 to 90 per pellet. And that would basically mean if half the pellets would hit you, you're dead. It's over. And that would be to the arm, to the legs, etc. The barricade slugs, they're very, very strong too. Decent amount of pen and very, very high flash damage too on the one slug. Makes it very, very satisfying to get that medium range slug hit with that thing. And infamously, the star rounds, which if you didn't know already about these, flashbang rounds. Now, after some mild testing and whatnot, and they have tweaked this since then, it seems the effective range of these flash rounds require you to be within 10 meters of whoever you're shooting at. And where the direction and the angle you shoot from does matter too. If you were to shoot off to their left somewhere slightly, it wouldn't impact them as much. If you were to shoot over the head or over the shoulder, it wouldn't impact them as much either. So the angle at which you shoot and the proximity to your target matters a lot with the star rounds. They're not so ridiculously powerful they can flash you from like 20 meters plus away. They're not like that. But the patch starting out, they were certainly a bit too strong. I believe the flash duration was anywhere upwards of 15 seconds, which means you were blind for 15 upwards of seconds. It was a little bit too much, and that's just until your vision would start returning. You'd still have to deal with the after effects of the flashbang round, and it was, a lot of people found it funny, but a lot of people didn't find it funny. It was mostly for memes, gonna be honest with you. I mean, what a lot of people are doing right now as well is they are running KS-23s as sidearms, which they will begin to engage with in TQC situations and swap over to either their main weapon, or they will have loaded their KS-23 in such a way they'll have a flashbang round and then like a shrapnel or a barricade round loaded right in after. So that seems to be what a lot of people are doing right now, but I'm not seeing the KS-23 as often as I did for the first few days of the patch. I'm seeing it every now and then regarding the raid and whatnot. I imagine you probably would see it more on maps like Factory, maps like Labs, any CQC kind of map. But yeah, I feel a little bit better about the KS-23 now. I feel like the barricade and shrapnel rounds require a little bit more nerfing. I just feel like for the price and the performance, as even if the rounds are very, very limited to buy, I still feel like they could use a slight, maybe an accuracy debuff. You know, this thing is huge and bulky anyway, so it's not like you can be ergonomic with the KS-23. If I was going to describe its performance and related to anything, it would probably be like the Ash 12 in terms of handling, reloading, ADSing. This thing is bulky, it's heavy, it's difficult to use, and you will be punished if you mess up your shots. So it's a weapon that does promote a degree of good planning, good aim, and good skill to a degree. Just a little bit more tweaking on the rounds. I feel like they should be a little bit more weaker, just to fit the, not necessarily the realism of the round, but more the balance of the game. This is a game, after all, we're playing, guys. I know the realism argument was used a lot for the Mosin, but this is a video game, and in games like Tarkov, a degree of balance is required. So, yeah. My opinion on the KS-23, funny weapon, but in seriousness, definitely needs a little bit more nerfing. But overall, I think it's an interesting weapon to add to the mix, because if we can get a shotgun in the game that doesn't just fire the flashbang rounds, but also fires maybe some other utility grenades, such as like smoke grenades, tear gas grenades, I feel like that would add a really, really cool layer upon the already kind of multi-layered aspect that is the PvP in Tarkov. I feel like having the KS-23 in the game opens up opportunities. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Battlestate decide to do with the KS-23 in the future and other weapons like it. In there, as far as attachments and stuff go, we didn't get a great deal. It's mostly in reality, we didn't get a lot to go into the end game of attachments, but we did get some good alternative options, slightly cheaper options. So I know that a lot of players right now are considering the price and the performance of parts to put on their weapons, and a lot of them decide to go for the cheaper option as opposed to the one or the small amount of ergo or recoil increase for a much more substantial amount of money. So we got some options there. Not too bad, not too terrible. Yeah, that's in terms of weaponry and attachments. That's pretty much the only noteworthy thing to talk about. We got some new armor. We got a level 5 body armor we can actually buy outright from Prepper of all traders. This was, I think, necessary because gradually more and more Battlestate have been shifting away from the really good level 5 plus armor being outright bought from traders. For those of you who don't know, it used to be a while ago you could just buy whatever armor you'd like from Ragman. You could buy Tactics, you could buy Gen 4s, you could buy all sorts, with the exception of a few other armors that are locked specifically behind barters. But these days, accessibility to armor from traders is a lot more restricted than it used to be. So having the option of a level 5 armor available for 100k, which is a very reasonable price for level 5 armor, I think it was necessary. I think it was needed. The armor isn't that great in terms of stats wise. The ergo penalties and whatnot are quite high. It's only got a maximum of 45 points. To give you perspective, the Gen 4 Assault has 68 points. The Gen 4 HMK, which is the same kind of coverage, has 62 points. Killer Armor, which is the best level 5 armor in the game, in my opinion, is 60 points. So there's a substantial gap of durability total between that and the next level 5 armors, which, as anybody knows, the lower an armor gets in general, the more a round that wouldn't usually be able to penetrate will be able to penetrate. So as much as the armor is a great option to have, it still doesn't quite hold up to the better armors out there, which means that you still have the urge to go and pursue these better armors for a better feeling playstyle and a better performing playstyle. So either way, the new armament, I believe it is the Corvand. I might pronounce that wrong. Very welcome addition to the game, and I feel like it also helps. It gives people more of a reason to actually spend their money, and people will be able to run some slightly better armor for not as much as the other armors go for. We got a new helmet, 2 new helmets actually. We got the Reese -T, which in ultimate summary is just a better Alton. The armor class is the same, so it's still level 5 visor, still level 5 helmet, and covers the same area. It's basically an Alton, but different colors and vastly superior stats. Better ergo penalties, better duration total. I believe it has like about 15 total above the Alton in terms of durability. And it is only locked behind a barter. I've not found a Reese helmet myself in Raid yet, but I found a few of the visors at least, and the trade's actually not that bad. The trade's very reasonable. I think it prices the Reese to about 300k average. The Alton's are roughly about 180 typically. So the Reese is good. I would like an option to maybe buy one with a slightly less awkward barter, I suppose, but it's like I said, it's just something else to actually go out and loot things for, or sink some money in to get the barter available. So, welcome addition to the game. The next helmet was the Cayman. Wasn't too sure about this one. I feel like this was added mostly for cosmetic reasons, but the helmet itself, it honestly is not that bad. So the helmet itself can take an extra plate, just like the slap plate for FASMTs, airframes, and whatnot. You have the extra protection on top of your head. I believe the plate is level 5. I might be wrong about that though. You can have a mandible on the helmet. It's a very thin mandible though. It's not like the chops for the airframe or the regular mandible for the FASMT. It's a very thin one. So it's level 2 as well, not level 3 like the other ones. However, one good thing about this helmet, if you can call it a good thing, is with the plate, with the mandible, you can also have a little visor over it. Now, if you guys don't know about the tactical almost like eye visor for the FASMT, it's essentially that. So you can actually, with this helmet, technically wear both a protection plate, a mandible, and a visor. The visor and the mandible, though, are level 2, which means that pistol fire and shotguns, the lower end ammo, have a decent chance to penetrate anyways. The helmet itself isn't really that expensive, though. So it makes a decent little alternative for almost like a tier 3 kind of game setting. I personally haven't used them all that much. I think it's the level 2 mandible and visor that really put me off using it. So either way, it's a good alternative to have. Once again, we've been getting a lot of cool like tier 3 to tier 2 options that give us more variety during our leveling up and give us more options, which we always appreciate. Give us more stuff to use and we'll be thankful for it. So good job on that, BSG. We've got a bunch of various quality of life updates and changes and fixes. I'm not going to go into all of them, but we did get a sorting mechanic. I personally, I have a neat stash anyways. I don't bother using it. But hey, for those of you who have no discipline and don't just leave your stash in a mess, there you have it. I don't know if the bug regarding the sorting mechanic apparently eating cases has been fixed yet. I don't know if it's been fixed yet. I'm assuming it has been. We've had several patches since the launch of 12.8. So keep that in mind. It may or may not still be a thing. Tarkov and its bugs tends to have a relationship where the bugs tend to linger around behind the shadows a little bit, so be careful using it. We did get some other changes. For example, you can now, by selecting an item and dragging it, you can see where you can put it. In case you weren't aware of space in your stash, I suppose. I didn't think this was necessary, but hey, a little bit of ease of access for any new players out there. They drag an item, they know exactly where it can go, which is good. Probably the biggest thing for me was the update to the queuing lobby and the addition of being able to see both your character and your team's characters. I thought that was, in reality, it's a pretty small change. Pretty small update, but it just seems to add a bit more, I'm not too sure, like a bit more team spirit to the game, you know? Just being able to see your teammates loadout and you're all just, you know, chilling on the screen before you queue in. Just adds a little bit more of a squad feeling aspect to the game, you know? You kind of felt a bit isolated almost in the loading screen, seeing only yourself and just the names of your teammates, so I thought it was a cool addition. I didn't expect it to be as impactful as it was, but there you go, it is. We got some new animations for the idle PMC too, if you're interested in that. And we also got a new bear voice, Bear 3. Now, I don't know about you guys, it sounds like an old scav, basically. Especially when you're getting shot or you're taking damage, you really do sound like a scav. It's interesting. It really is interesting. So, the only qualm I have right now is that the voice itself seems to be set to louder tune than the others. This might just be like a placebo effect deal, but I just can't help but feel that certain voice lines from Bear 3 are louder than they should be. And apparently the breathing against the visor too, which is obviously, it's pretty audible regardless, but apparently for Bear 3, and I've done this a few times playing with buddies and whatnot, they can hear me breathing quite far away. So maybe some audio level tweaks for the Bear 3 voice, but otherwise, welcome addition to the game, regardless. Bear needs more voice lines, so I'm happy that we're getting more of them. In terms of general stuff, that's more or less the noteworthy stuff that comes to mind. Overall, though, we've been getting some mini patches here and there, tweaking certain weaponry, like making certain further summaries, and we did actually get an update to the loot table from a lot of items and lootables in Tarkov. One of the biggest things that a lot of veteran players have been asking for a long time now were an update to the loot table where you can find more body armor, more helmets, more rigs, more stuff to do with gear in the world, and we got that. Pretty much. In weapons crates, I guess you just call them crates now. The static PMC bodies, not the PMC bodies or the scab bodies, I'm sorry. You can find armor all the way up to Vulcan helmets, all the way up to Gen 4s. I believe people have already found slicks off the crates and the static scab bodies. You can genuinely get some really good stuff now, looting crates. A lot of people would do, especially if you're a shoreline player like I am, a lot of people would just kind of go to the resort, hit the wing, check the respawns, and leave. They would completely ignore the crates. Not the case anymore. The crates are now being hit a lot more consistently, which I think is great. It just means that players having to make the decision where if they want to spend longer in an area looting for the chance of a great armor or a great helmet dropping, or even a great rig, you can get some really great rigs from the crates now too. They incur the risk of spending longer in an area looting and potentially risking an engagement, or they have to potentially sacrifice what's in the crates to get out what they have already. It adds a sense of urgency and a risk versus reward elaboration within your raid. I think we've been asking for this for a while, and I'm really happy Battlestate finally brought it around. So high marks for doing that. And also, generally, aside from some desync issues and whatnot, regarding everybody kind of coming back for the patch, obviously when there's an influx of players, the servers tend to struggle a little bit. This is just how it goes with nearly every game out there in reality. I feels like my shots are actually registering a bit more than usual. I can't explain it. It just feels like I'm getting more bang for my buck, you know? It feels like my shots are actually landing and doing something. Sometimes you just, before the 12.8 at least, there were quite a few occurrences where you feel like you were shooting them and it wasn't feel like it was doing anything. It seems to be getting better with this patch. Like I said, trying to get over the desync of the new server, you know, malting and whatnot. But overall, I've been feeling like my PvP has been a lot more responsive. So we'll see if that continues. And that's pretty much it for 12.8 that I really want to discuss. There are other things. What I'll do is, if you were interested about what else was changed on the actual patch day, plus other stuff, I'll leave some links down below in the comment section, so check them out if you're interested. But pretty much that's the major stuff covered. And what we all know Battle.net like to do is they like to give us 90% of the changes, and then the last remaining 10% they leave for us to figure out ourselves. I think this is a cool approach to patch notes in general in a game. You always leave like an air of mystery up on what could be remaining. I feel like it's a really smart marketing tactic, but I also feel like it's just a great approach in general to keep the player base engaged. So keep doing good things, BSG. Keep doing good things, honestly. You guys have been killing it lately with your changes and updates, the recent patches and whatnot. It wasn't a huge patch, but it did bring a bunch of really appreciated changes and updates. So thank you for that. In looking at what we have left, though, we're probably not going to be seeing 12.9 until next year. If we see it before 2021, I'll be very, very surprised. We usually have like about 3 to 4 months between patches, so if Battlestate are working overtime, like I'm sure they are already, and they're working on 12.9 already as we speak, fair play to them. More patches, always good. So that's pretty much 12.8 overall. Happy with the patch. If you guys have any opinions on the patch as well that you want me to either talk about, or you just want to just state your piece, make sure you leave them on the comment section below, and let me know what you think. What you think they could add, what you think they could change, improve, and we can talk about this on the next episode. So with 12.8 out the way, I figured I'd give a little bit of an update as to what's going on over here in Yorkshire right now. Yorkshire is where I live. It's my hometown. And that's all you're getting. No addresses. Nice try. So, pretty much anyone in the UK living right now will know that we are pretty much going to be going into a general lockdown, a second lockdown coming up very soon. For some places, it's even a third lockdown, because some places when it stayed in quarantine for longer than other places did. It's I think it was to be expected. Everybody was talking about the second wave, and now, you know, the second wave is going to be, it could be either worse or just under the severity of the first wave. And it pretty much looks like the latter. It looks like it's going to be nearly as bad as the first wave was. Cases are on the rise again, unfortunately. At the very least, mortality rate is low. We're treating it better. And certain treatments are going well. So that, I suppose. But our NHS is struggling. Free healthcare is struggling. It's a bit of a tough time over here. Everywhere it is. Especially over here in Yorkshire. We actually handled the first wave of the lockdown really well over here. I feel like nearly everyone did what they were supposed to do. We had very few cases here in York, as opposed to other big major cities and whatnot. Leeds did okay from what I recall. And yeah, it's a bit of a shame that we're going back to lockdown again. I feel like it's mostly mismanagement from the government. I think a degree of understanding is required, though. I'm not making excuses for Boris. He's useless. I'm not making excuses for any other politicians out there. But it feels like you can't really be prepared properly for a global pandemic. You have your contingencies in place, but the thing is about a virus, 9 times out of 10, it won't go the way you think it will. You can predict patterns, like the weather, for example, but you never really know what it's going to be like when it actually is here. So I feel like after giving our government a degree of understanding, I feel like ultimately I'm very disappointed at how it's been managed. They opened up a bunch of services I didn't deem were definitely high importance in terms of turning the economy back on, basically. And I know that there's been a bunch of cases over here recently where people have been staying way past curfew, out during their nights out during their pub crawls, out on the lash. There's been quite a few instances of this happening, unfortunately. So it's not just it's mostly the government's mismanaging, but it's also a lot of people out here not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I know that recently here in York, I think this was about a month ago now, curfew came, everywhere closed down, and because people were so up their own asses, basically, they all gathered in a kind of tight packed spot in the city, and they just acted like idiots. They were just singing, they were next to each other, there was no social distancing, they were all over each other, and surprise, surprise, a bunch of corona cases came away from that. So, I know for a fact that the reason why cases have been on the rise is also due to the fact that people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, or the way they're supposed to be doing it in. It's a big shame that people would prioritize their own selfishness over potentially saving a life. That is what this is all about. You are potentially saving a life by doing what you should be doing, wearing a mask, social distancing, staying indoors, doing non-essential journeys not being done. Yeah, it really is a shame that people are kind of making this all about themselves now, as opposed to understanding that this is a community deal. We're in this as a community. We're in this as a country, ultimately. So it's disappointing, really is. Here's hoping that when the lockdown comes, people will actually understand that we're going into lockdown for a good reason, back into it rather. If it does end up coming by, at the very least, we're going to have stricter regulations, and yeah, hopefully people will do what they're supposed to be doing. One thing I've noticed what a lot of people are doing now are making it political. This isn't just over here in the UK, it's over in the US too. People are, and other places I'm sure as well. People are basically making this out as the government trying to essentially dictate to you how to live your lives, and that they're exerting their control over you to a tyrannical degree. I could not be further confused and further irritated at these people. I don't know why they had to make it political. There's nothing political about a disease, a virus. There's nothing about this should be political. But yet people are making it political regardless, either for their own means or excusing their own means. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I really wish these people would get a reality check. Not a harsh one, obviously, but just an understanding that they're being idiots, they're being selfish. They need to get some perspective. The sooner they do what they're supposed to do, the sooner we can come out this mess, the sooner we can restart as a country, and also as a fucking species, as a world. So, yeah, here's hoping the stupid people become less stupid over the next few months if we get this lockdown implemented. In terms of the lockdown over here in York, though, I believe the South Yorkshire has gone into level 3 already, or is going into level 3. Not too much word on North Yorkshire, East and West, obviously. I guess we'll find out more when we get the government announcement later. Pretty much all I wanted to talk about, really, regarding that. Obviously, I'm going to repeat myself again, guys. It's frustrating, okay? It really is frustrating. We can't do what we want to do. We have to go around with a mask. We're uncomfortable in the mask, you know, especially if we're wearing glasses, okay? I wear glasses. I wear a mask. I sacrifice my eyesight. It's awful. But these are small sacrifices to ensure that you are potentially saving a life. Just remember that. Just drill that into your heads. The reason why you're doing this, the reason why you're not going out as much, the reason why you're wearing that mask, the reason why you're staying 2 meters away from other people, you could be saving a life out there. Remember, the coronavirus isn't something that just pops up like that. You could have it for 2 weeks and not know about it. You could have it and not even realize you had it, and then get over it. But other people aren't the same. Other people's bodies might handle it differently, whether they're in a risk group or they're not in a risk group. You know, it's just remember that you're doing this to save lives. Don't make it political. Don't make it about the government. Don't make it about anything like that. Just understand that you are doing this for your fellow man, your neighbor, your community. Just remember. I think we, in terms of recent cases that were close to me, there was a shop nearby. One of the staff members got a corona case. So a little bit of a kind of a scare over here right now. But as far as me and my family are concerned, and my neighbors are concerned, we're all doing really great. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Non-essential journeys are not being made. My my brothers, well, if they're going out, or if I'm going out, it'll be within curfew and it'll be within the boundaries. Yeah. So, all good over here in the Clay household and immediate area, and I wish people would wake up a little bit. So, moving on from that little bit of a segment about the lockdown in general and a small update as to where I live, and regarding the coronavirus and whatnot, I wanted to elaborate further on last week's topic, which was about mental health amongst streamers. And people wanted me to talk about mental health for men as well. So I'll dip my toes back into health for streamers to start with, and then we'll have a look at the problems regarding mental health, regarding the expectations put upon men, and hopefully we can get some decent insight regarding that. So, first off, I talked a lot about the self-imposed pressures as when it comes to being a streamer on Twitch. Doesn't matter what gender you are, this is the same experience for everyone. Regarding the intention to become to reach the ultimate goal, which is being partnered. There's a lot of anxiety, self-doubt, depression, and other negative emotions that come when you are growing as a streamer. The unfortunate truth is that it's a mentally demanding job. I will say this for sure. Streaming in general it's difficult. A lot of work goes into it, and you're spending arguably more time than a regular job, but it beats any regular job out there. That doesn't mean it's a job without flaws, though. Not at all. There's a lot of focus on numbers as you're growing. You're trying to better understand your demographic. You're better trying to get a deeper understanding of strategies and stuff like that to bring in more new people to make a community a welcoming place. And it sometimes doesn't work out like the way you want it to, or at least you have a lull, or your numbers are slightly lower than you're used to. Sorry. I personally have reached very, very close to partnership on several occasions, and I'm currently going through quite a quiet period right now because I decided to step away from Tarkov, which is my main game, and explore other options and stuff like that as well. It's a bit of it's a hard-hitting thing to know that arguably the better decision for you as a person isn't the best decision for you and your streaming career. It's tough. It's tough to kind of put yourself first in that respect, because any streamer who starts Twitch with the intention of reaching partner, this is something you will all have to get over at some point. This is something we'll all have to just understand and deal with, and some people handle it not so great as others. Obviously, everybody's a different person. They handle things differently, and it's all about ultimately understanding your position and relating it to a position in your past. One of the main things, me personally, that helps me when I'm feeling a little bit too caught up in the numbers, my growth, etc. One of the main things that really helps me out personally is just remembering the people in my community and where I was now 2 years ago. I've come a very long way since the beginning of my streaming career, and my community has made things I didn't think possible. And not just for me, but for my family, and more specifically my mother too. My mum has had a much better quality of life due to my community and the Tarkov community in general. And it's important to remember that you didn't start like this. You started from zero and you worked your way up to this place you are now. You have to remember the work you've put in. You have to remember where you came from. That perspective is very, very important. And even if a lot of people, you may not have grown that much, the perspective is still there and it's still important. You were not there. You were not in that place a year ago, for example, or 6 months ago. You just need to stay up, keep your chin up, and just keep pushing. That perspective really does help me a lot personally in regards to when I start getting caught up in everything. Not to mention too, but also remember this main thing. Even if it's 5 people in your stream, there are people in your stream, in your community, who the highlight to their days is waiting for you to get on, waiting for you to go live, waiting for you to chat with them, waiting for you to play whatever games that they might be interested in. There are people who are relying on you, not so much relying, but people who are looking forward to seeing you, your content, and everything else regarding you as a person throughout their days. Whether if they might have your stream up at work, maybe they're undergoing an injury and they find your stream and they enjoy it because it makes them feel less focused on their injury. Maybe they're going through a tough time right now regarding family, their jobs, their life in general, and they come to your stream and they feel a little bit better because they could distract themselves and kind of like reset their minds a little bit. People find solace and comfort in your stream, and as you as a person. Now, personally for me, and I've said this over and over again, the true success for me on Twitch isn't to reach partnership. I am pursuing it. I do want to be partnered, but the true success for me personally, I've already achieved. And that's the fact that people enjoy themselves in my stream. I have regulars who come by and they have a good time. They show up without fail in some cases. But ultimately they enjoy coming. And the messages that I get from a lot of my community members saying how their content's helped them out a lot in dark places, my mods included. To me, that's the true success. That's having done it. That's being a successful streamer, broadcaster, entertainer, whatever you want to call it. That to me is the true success. When you have helped people through tough times. That's what it is to me. Personally. So yeah, touching back on mental health for streamers a little bit, just a few things to remind yourself and refresh yourself of if you're feeling a bit down and caught in the numbers or the growth or whatever. Just remember those two things. But I want to talk about mental health for men and going into my own personal experience, going into some potential strategies you could cope with, and more specifically to do with the lockdown too. You know, at the end of the day, men are human beings. You know, they also deal with feelings of isolation and they feel lonely too. So let's touch down first on my own personal history regarding my own mental health. So a lot of people would know me to be pretty upbeat, pretty chill, and I'm pretty upbeat and chill. I do my absolute best to think positive about most situations. I feel like there's absolutely no point dedicating energy to becoming bogged down thinking about things. I feel like it's more productive if I just keep pushing forward and keep a smile on my face. I have my moments too, obviously. Sometimes I need to let things out, but ultimately I consider myself a pretty positive person. And I like, and I've had a habit of being there for people at the detriment of myself. That might not be a good thing, but this is just how I've been. You know, I did a lot of I looked after my mum a lot when I was young, and I think this is where it came from. Kind of this feeling of, I won't say selflessness, but just the desire to help people if I can, or talk to people if I can, or other related stuff. I've always been like that. I have had depression in my life on a few different occasions. Some episodes more severe than others, some not so severe. And it's rough. Usually these are brought about by feelings of inferiority, but I'm not at the place I should be, that I haven't done much to improve upon myself, and it just all drags me down, and then it's, you know, that's it. Then I'm out of action for a few weeks, or longer. The worst case of depression I had was over in Holland, when I used to live in Holland. I was pretty much in bed for about a month because I think it caught up to me about me not being ready and whatnot, and that I realized I was way out of my depth. I wasn't ready for this, and I just kind of shut down. That was the worst instance of depression I've had in my life. But one thing that's carried with me throughout my life, I think, has been a underlying layer of anxiety in my mind. I'm always overthinking things. I'm always thinking about conversations that I've had, or going back on my stream and thinking about stuff that I either wasn't happy with or I feel like I could have done better. I'm always... That's self-critique to a degree, but I always take it that little bit extra further. I always kind of like let that roller coaster from my brain kind of take me off somewhere that isn't really good for me. I've always had a anxiety to a degree. It used to get really bad, but thanks to streaming, I've been able to keep a much better lid on it. I've been able to handle it better. It still creeps up on me now and then, but ultimately, yeah. Anxiety is something I deal with fairly often, but also something I deal with and keep a lid on. So, yeah, I'm not perfect. You know, a lot of people, like to come on my stream and see this person on there. It's important to know that that the people you see behind the screen and who behave a certain way still have their own problems to deal with. Just so you guys would know. So, in terms of my own personal history out the window with there, mental health of men. Where do we start? I feel like a lot of the mental health problems that sprout begin with expectations. Begin with not just the expectations of yourself, but also the expectations imposed on by others. You know, I know that the line has been blurred a little bit more and more over the years in regards to what a man really is. We're not going to go too into that, but the idea that a man is typically supposed to be reliant, dependable, strong, both of body and mind, and just successful in general. These are all very, very big expectations to have for any person, not just a man, but a woman too. You know, these are things. These are very big, tall orders. You know, and very, very few men in their lives actually manage to reach this kind of well-roundedness without some manner of better life. You know, a lot of people don't really have the life and the upbringing and the comfort that would make such a lifestyle typically better. But it's ultimately down to you as a person, to your will and your discipline, etc. Either way, there are things that should be expected of from men, and it's interesting to think that we are still living in an age where the man in general is still it's strange. We're considered it's like a bit of a double standard, really. It's like we're expected to be equal to everyone, but yet we're also expected to be slightly raised on a pedestal above other people. You know, it's interesting because if you really think about it, if there were true equality in the world, the man wouldn't be raised as high as he is. You know, the man wouldn't be raised on a pedestal like that. It's interesting because it's a societal message from other people that we should all be equal and we should all look after each other. Yet then there is these underlying tropes that you as a guy or a man should be expected to adhere to. It's interesting, and it's also very, very confusing because this isn't a simple matter. You know, not every man has the same kind of upbringing. Not every man has the same healthy mindset. No man is raised the same way. No man has the same upbringing, the same financial status, etc. I'm sure if we all did, we'd probably be able to reach these things better, not just for other people, but for ourselves too. But that's largely where the issue falls into as well, is that where at least my generation was raised with the fact that you should get a job, you should look after a wife, raise kids, retire. That's pretty much how like when I was raised, that's how we were kind of expected to grow up into. And it's funny because I know for a fact that it's my own life and I've done it my own way, but that's always at the back of my mind, you know? And that always kind of imposes an occasional pang of, like, I'm behind, I'm late, you know, I'm behind everyone else. It's an interesting little feeling. Ultimately, though, to take away from the expectations of a man, it's hard to shake it off, I feel like. I'm my own person, and I'm my own mindset, and no one will tell me what I can and can't do with my life. But I've always got that at the back of my mind as a guy. You know, I'm not in the right shape I want to be. I'm not active nearly enough as I want to be. You know, I'm not done as much of my appearance as I want to be. I'm not really invested in my wardrobe as much as I should. I don't have a car. I can't drive yet. It's all these little changes and stuff like that, and that obviously are beneficial to you, but for a lot of people, for a lot of guys out there, they're driven not by the intention that this is good for them, but for the fact that they'll be viewed as a better man for it. So yeah, interesting little thing, and projections almost there from the community onto the man. And not to mention too, regarding the quarantine as well, I feel like right now, men are having a much harder time. You know, we're not hanging in our social circles as much. You know, for a lot of people, we're not even hanging out with our partners as much because of this. And for a lot of men, the feeling of isolation and desperation is setting in more and more and more. Now, I have been relatively comfortable during the quarantine. I pretty much spent most of my time indoors regardless, streaming. And way before that, gaming too. So no real loss on my end. But even still, just knowing that I'm not able to see my buddies over here as much hits you. It does hit you. Humans in general are social animals, but I think men more so are social animals because we learn from each other. As men, we grow up with other men, other boys, and we all learn things from each other. We learn mannerisms, we learn perspectives, we learn to be able to take a joke. We learn to be able to we know what the line is regarding jokes. You know, we've all had fights in our lives as men because it's all a learning curve. So arguably, in terms of that, we're a lot more social compared to other genders, and this social reliance almost has and will hit us all to a certain degree. And I feel like this has hit us more during the lockdown than ever before, and it's hard to deal with for a lot more people too. For the people who have regular jobs out there, you know, especially just trying to stay busy, it sucks. It really does suck. You're just kind of just sitting at home. You have no idea what to do with yourself. I am by no means a psychologist or a doctor, so I am by no means saying that I have the solution. But one thing I have definitely known to help an absolute ton with not just this mindset, but also the expectations imposed upon you regarding everything else as a guy is, and I know it sounds really simple, exercise, gym, weight training, sit-ups, squats, whatever you want to do. Get a regimen in your life, an outlet for exercise. There's one thing that always seems to help me out personally if I'm feeling any of these things, or I'm just feeling like my mind's catching up too much, and that's exercise in general. Even just doing push-ups every now and then. It just helps me feel better. I mean, obviously you can boil it down to like the chemical level, you know, endorphins and whatnot. But as a guy, you feel a lot more accomplished when you do work out, when you do go to the gym, when you do have a great session, when you come out and you're freaking wobbling about all over the place and you're drenched with sweat. It's tough to at first, but if you manage to implement a strict, not even strict, if you go 3 times a week, session to the gym, or just get some, like, if you don't want to spend money in the gym, or if you feel like you're not comfortable going out there during quarantine, search up like some home exercise you could do, order in some weights. You know, there's so much you can do, and it just makes you feel better than you are feeling right now every single time. For me personally, at least, and to everyone else suggested it too, who I talked about regarding this, they've also felt better due to it. And it also just gives you a level of distraction and a goal to pursue whilst you're kind of like getting your life back in order around the quarantine, your job, wherever that may be, etc. You know? Please, if you haven't done that already, I would highly encourage it. I would highly encourage it. It's just, you won't regret it. Will not regret it. But of course, this isn't the solution to a lot of people, and it's not even a patch job for a lot of people. Men's suicide rates are higher than ever, to put a serious note on this. And And it's a terrible, terrible thing to know that there are men out there who feel like there is no way out from this. There is a way out. All right, you are not truly alone. Okay, you might think you are truly alone, but you're not. Never are ever, as a human being, never truly alone. I would highly encourage anybody to start seeking out therapists. There's a lot of over the phone sessions now. Talk about your feelings. Talk about how you feel, and ask for help. It's out there. You just need to reach out and find the number. A quick Google search away. Mental health number or mental health for men counselor in my area. It's as simple as that. Google is your friend. Reach out to friends if you have them and talk about this too. They'll help you out as well. Please, 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 just don't take this lightly, okay? You may be a man, but at the end of the day, you are a human being. Men feel inferior a lot of the time. They feel threatened a lot of the time. You are still a human being, and you can talk about how you feel. I learned this many years ago, that I have the ability to talk about how I feel, and as a result, I became a better person because of it, but I also became a more tolerant person because of it. So please, seek out help if you need it, and I really wish you the best of luck with whatever you're dealing with. And if it's any consolation at all, and to anyone in my community out there, if you guys are feeling rough as well, my DMs are just a message away. I have Discord up usually all the time. It might take a bit longer for a reply in some cases. I might be away from my PC or whatnot, but Discord is always there. If anyone in my community is feeling similar feelings to what I've described, please reach out to me. We'll see what we can do. But ultimately, find help. Touching onto it there. Some interesting views from society regarding men and the positive effect that exercise in general has on your mood as a man. And yeah, just a little sign-off messages there. So I think we are about an hour in, I think. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. We talked about some good stuff today, and I appreciate everyone watching. And obviously I'm not the most knowledgeable person. Sorry, I'm by no means a guru of knowledge. But I like talking about things and offering my own perspectives on them and applying them and seeing if that helps anyone else's perspectives. I feel like that's ultimately what the world needs these days. More perspective. You know, we're dealing with a crazy time right now, but we're also dealing with a lot of people who refuse to see things from the opposite side. And I'm talking about both sides of an argument, whatever. We're dealing with a lot of closed-minded people these days, and I feel like more perspective is what we need in this world. We need more information. We need more understanding. We need more tolerance. And here's hoping that I can, the podcast can, or in general, will help bring a little bit more of that into the world. I consider that a successful podcast, if so. So, I'm going to sign off there. I'm once again going to shout out Artesian Builds for partnering me. Like I said, I will leave the relevant information down below in my description. So make sure you check out that if you want to get yourself a great custom-built PC. You can watch it being built on Artesian Switch channel, and you can also get up to $100 using my discount code. All good things. All great things. So check it out. And once again, a big thank you again to my current 3 patrons for supporting me. That's Six, that's Zen, and that's Hobbit. I appreciate you all. The help is more impactful than you think, and I appreciate everyone staying, supporting me in the Patreon. I love you all. So I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. So if you enjoyed the video, like it. Subscribe if you'd like. I want to try and aim to get 1 podcast episode out a week. We're going to be mixing it in, as you can see from today's topics, with Tarkov stuff and other stuff that should be talked about. In terms of everything else, yeah, I like to balance this with a mixture of stream-related stuff and then real-world related stuff. So, hope you guys had a good time watching and or listening. And I will see you all guys in the next episode. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Look after yourself. And peace.